We welcome you back, and we are joined by the panel in this the third hour. By the way, coming up at the bottom of the hour, Tiger Mom will join us. If you don't know who she is, you certainly will find out. And after that, we're going to be joined by well, the man who's given us all this snow and all this bad weather. Yes, it's his fault. Joe Pistardi, weatherman extraordinaire for chief forecaster for Weather Bell Analytics, will join us. But right now, the panel, as I mentioned, and it's John Gizzi returning, Newsmax Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief, and Yevgeniy Feyman from the Manhattan Institute joins us. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. Let's start with what I was talking about with Charles Hurt, the columnist for the Washington Times in the previous segment. And let's start with you, Yevgeniy. And are you surprised that John Boehner went in the direction he did with putting forth that clean bill to be voted on before attaching anything or trying to at least get a show vote for the Democrats?
No, I think it was very tactical and it was very smart because they realized that after the last government shutdown, they took all the flack. It wasn't worth it, especially because it distracted from Obamacare, it distracted from the rollout, and Republicans took the heat for that. They don't want that happening this time around. And
you and I, in the previous hour, we discussed that at length, John. So you agree, and you even asked those questions today, or heard those questions asked to people within the leadership about why that wasn't done. So you want to just refresh us on that?
Exactly. Just before I came on with you, Steve, I was with a spokesman for Speaker Boehner who was hit with some hard questions about why he agreed to the clean bill only days after saying he was going to seek concessions on things, among them being military benefits and the Keystone Pipeline, as well as possibly attaching a moratorium on proposed regulations that would limit educational groups. In the end, the Speaker decided, and I think Yevgeniy's on to something on this, that it was easier to upset the Tea Party and gamble that voters would be upset enough about Obamacare that a clean resolution would not bother anyone, even though only 28 of the Republican House members, 28 out of more than 200, voted for it.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, let me switch gears. In the last hour, I had John Wellinghoff, attorney and former chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, talking about that terror attack, or the attack on the power station in San Jose, which he wouldn't classify it as terror, but he did say it was an attack, pre-planned, well executed, the whole thing. And the way he lays it out is we have thousands of substations across the country, but 100 of them that he says are the most critical, with the most critical transformers that could cripple our entire power grid. And many of them, if not most of them, have security of chain-linked fences, and that's it, and they're vulnerable. Let me ask you, as we go forward here, Yevgeniy, do you understand, is there any reason why you could think of that this is not an issue that's been addressed and fixed by now?
Well, it doesn't really attract that much popular support, especially right now with the Obamacare rollout, with the debt limit debacle, the government shutdown from last year. Someone can certainly bring this up, and I think it would be a great opportunity for a freshman congressman in the GOP to really gain some leverage, get some national attention.
And John, Trent Franks has harped on this, and some others have, but it hasn't gotten the traction. And I'm just dumbfounded because it's literally a doomsday scenario if this were to occur. Millions of Americans would die.
It's a doomsday scenario, but also remember something. Like a lot of doomsday scenarios, they sort of get lost in the shuffle when so many bigger events are happening on the national stage and the world stage as well. These are turbulent times we live in, and a wise man once said, if it takes over 5 sentences to explain, it's not going to be remembered.
Well, you're a writer, and Yevgeniy is a writer, and I'm a talker, so I guess we should keep that in mind. Let's turn to the Olympics, and I'm interested, certainly, Yevgeniy Feyman, those of you watching and listening to the name pronunciation, which I hope I'm doing some justice to, you could sense that he has a Russian background. In fact, Yevgeniy, you were born in Russia, if I'm not mistaken. What's your take on on what's going on in Sochi, the fact that Putin's on the world stage. He's gained so much praise from especially NBC and the networks as this man of the world, this man of peace, what he's done with the Syrian agreement, which is nothing, what he's done with Iran, which is nothing. But they've been glorifying him and Russia.
It's upsetting, to say the least. The nice thing about Sochi is that everything the journalists are experiencing, that's what a lot of Russians experience on a daily day, on every single day. The dilapidated infrastructure, human rights violations, the fact that the way they deal with stray dogs is hunting them down and killing them left and right.
They say they're doing that for aesthetic purposes for the Olympics, or is that a commonplace aside from the Olympics?
I mean, it's pretty commonplace.
Really?
It's certainly not.
I mean, either way, it's abhorrent, but still, yeah. I mean, I have a little doggy at home. God forbid, that's awful. What's the take there in Washington? Of course, all the talk, John, before the Olympics was on security. We even had a congressman over the weekend said something's going to blow up there. So far, thank goodness, nothing has happened to the best of my knowledge. So, is the focus kind of off of it now in D.C.?
I think it is, and I think people are enjoying the Olympics and the moving human interest stories that come out of events such as this. For me, Alex Bilodeau, the Canadian mogul skier who was such a champion last night and won, and as he always does when he wins, Alex came out and hugged his brother Frederick, who was there to cheer him on everywhere. Frederick has cerebral palsy. He always comes first in his brother's eye.
That is a great story. I didn't know that. I'm glad you said that because I was going to say something stupid like, boy, what, you've been following him for many years?
No, I've just started to follow him as I've followed a lot of the people in the Olympics. But I would also say that another person following certain events closely is Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
I'm sure if Jenny noticed, and a lot of other people noticed, he was there to watch that 15-year-old woman who was the speed skater, Miss Lipnitskaya, and I hope I said that right.
Did he say it right, Yevgeny?
Very close.
Okay, close enough.
Quite frankly, I didn't like the way he looked at her.
Wait. What do you mean by that? She won?
She won.
Okay, so were you talking about he looked at her in a leering way?
Well, let's just say this. He focused on her every move out.
All right. Well, if he wasn't paying attention, we could criticize. I'll take you at your word. I didn't see it, so I'm not trying to give you a hard time. But okay.
No, give me a hard time. I was rooting for Caitlin Osborne of Canada, who did not win.
Are you Canadian? Seriously?
No, I'm Italian. I'm an American.
Okay, because the two athletes you've talked about so far are Canadian, obviously, and I was just curious. No offense meant.
Well, I also liked, I certainly liked waving the red, white, and blue at the Olympics. Julie Mancuso of Nevada.
Yes.
Certainly captivated a lot of people out there, and she has an amazing background as well as the daughter of a crime lord. And a father she stayed loyal to even when he went into prison.
Yeah, and Yevgeny, I don't know, are you a hockey fan at all, or?
I was a long time ago.
Okay, because the hockey, the men's hockey, I think there are some games that a couple that might start tonight. Most of the athletes from the NHL are over there, and it starts in earnest tomorrow. But did you very briefly? Ed Snyder, the owner of the Flyers, said we don't belong there. I mean, the NHL players shouldn't be there. That's a relatively new phenomenon. Do you believe it was better the way it was in '80 when we beat the Russians, or do you think pro athletes should be there?
I think pro athletes should absolutely be there. This is the world stage. I don't think isolationist approaches are a good way forward.
And of course, some might argue, both of you gentlemen, that the pros have always been there from the Soviet Union and Russia because that's what they do. That's what they did for a living, and so the amateurs were playing the Russian pros in '80 when they won the gold medal. All right, thank you to both of you, John Gizzi. Good talking to you, Newsmax Washington D.C. bureau chief. Watch the snow, and the same to you, Yevgeny Feyman of Manhattan Institute. You watch the snow as well. We all have to watch the snow. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be joined by the Tiger Mom on the Steve MALZBERG Show.
The Steve MALZBERG Show.